Back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. It's me, Niall, just here giving a quick reaction to the big breaking news that broke earlier on this afternoon that the legendary, phenomenal Ukrainian Vasyl Lomachenko has officially announced his retirement from the sport of boxing. Yeah, absolute legend. One of the best careers we've ever seen. So, yeah, I'm just going to be giving my thoughts and kind of my thoughts on the career of Lomachenko. But before we do, please make sure, if you're not doing so already, to subscribe to our YouTube channel at ESBR Boxing. Drop a like on this video if you enjoy the content. I'd really appreciate it. And follow us on all social media. Now, yeah, let's crack on. As I said, Lomachenko officially retired. It was a decision that seemed to be coming for the past, well, year, over a year now since he beat George Kambosos Jr., stood him on his head and stopped him last year in Australia. Hasn't fought since. There was whispers of retirement, but it was just waiting on official confirmation, and now the man himself has confirmed that he's done. It's an absolutely legendary first ballot Hall of Fame career. It really is phenomenal, phenomenal fighter, and to put it simply, one of the best fighters we'll ever see, we have ever seen, or we will ever see. That's not understating it. From his amateur career, the medals speak for themselves, world championship medals, European medals, and of course two Olympic gold medals. It doesn't get better than that to do it once, never mind twice. An amateur record of 396 and one, which likely will never be beaten either. Absolutely outstanding numbers, outstanding statistics. Then he turns pro after the 2012 games, along with his compatriot Alexander Usyk up at cruiserweight. And yeah, he starts as he left off as an amateur. To be honest with you, challenging for world titles in his second fight, of course, came unstuck against Orlando Salido. Very controversial fight. Salido butchering the weight, and also employing some kind of questionable tactics. But that there's no shame in losing that way. He was out proud. He was out bullied. No real complaints, even though the tactics were quite controversial by Salido. But then he goes and beats Gary Russell Jr. for a world title then in his next fight. Gary Russell Jr., phenomenal fighter in his own right, and especially back in his prime. Have featherweight, outstanding. Blister and hand speed, phenomenal fighter, and Lomachenko made it look like a spar. It was an incredible performance. Yeah, he goes on to rule the featherweight division. Moves up then to 130, beats names like Nicholas Walters, who hadn't lost before, big puncher. Guillermo Rigondeaux, his fellow phenomenal amateur, taking his unbeaten record. Rigondeaux looked unbeatable himself. I know Rigondeaux was coming up two weight divisions, but to do that, what he done to Rigondeaux, I don't care if he's coming up two weights or not. To embarrass somebody of the caliber of Guillermo Rigondeaux is absolutely phenomenal. It really is phenomenal. Rigondeaux quits on a still. Walters quits on a still. These are absolutely elite level world champions who he's making look like don't even belong in the same ring as him. That's the caliber of opponent that he's fighting. Fights other names. Jose Pedraza, but lightweight, Luke Campbell, Jorge Linares. Yeah, and then comes unstuck again against a phenomenal talent, Teofimo Lopez. No shame in that. He was injured in that fight too, and considered past his best, and fighting out of in a weight division that's considered out of his best. Outside of 126, 130, he was an undersized lightweight, and he won world titles at lightweight. That shows how phenomenal he is. He beat world class opponents like Jorge Linares. Fights Teofimo injured. Very, very close fight. Could have won it. Yeah, Teofimo gets the better of him, no shame in that. Comfortably dispatches kind of world level, fringe world level guys like Masayoshi Nakatani, and Richard Comey, spins them on their head, makes them look like they don't belong there. Fights Devin Haney, the great Devin Haney, young in his prime, big superstar coming up, and again arguably beats him when he's considered old and past his best, which he was, after a long career and amateur career in particular. and gives Devin Haney a hell of a fight. Probably should have won that fight, if we're being honest. Very close fight, but Haney gets the nod. So, he's losing these very, very close fights when he's technically past his best against young world-class superstars in Lopez and Haney. Yeah, and then his final fight, as it turned out, against George Kambosos last year in Australia. Kambosos' his home country. And, say what you want about George Kambosos, but, he's a world-class fighter. We seen what he done to Teofimo Lopez after Lopez beat Lomachenko. And Lomachenko, even further on the slide, dismantles him and stops him. Outstanding performance. So he's retiring, you know, on top. He's retiring after a performance like that. And I have to say, I really respect this decision to retire. He's had a phenomenal career, amateur and pro. He is aging now. He has had a long, long amateur career, and he has had a lot of injury problems. So it's good to see a phenomenal talent get out like that on top, while he still has kind of most of his health intact, and that he's not kind of going, continuing and losing to people that wouldn't lace his boots in his prime, to be honest with you. So, yeah, I fully respect this decision. As much as I'm going to kind of miss him fighting, he was one of my favourite fighters, beautiful fighter to watch. As I say, one of the best we've ever seen, and that's a fact, and one of the best we will ever see. In terms of talent, I think he's the best fighter I've ever seen. Um, just when he was in full flow, his fluidity, his footwork, his smoothness, the angles he created, the shots he'd get off, his hand speed, his elusiveness, even when he was not on the back foot. He was right in front of you, and you still couldn't hit him. He wasn't a Mayweather type of fighter where he was kind of back touching the ropes and shell up and kind of slip shots. He was right there, peppering you with shots from all angles, and you couldn't hit him back. He's a genius, and he's a boxing genius. He's one of the best ever, will be one of the best ever. He gets discredited by clowns who say, he's lost 3 times. He lost to Salido, but they're idiots who kind of don't know boxing and don't know the ins and outs of what happened in the Salido fight and how close the other 2 losses were, and how kind of past his best Lomachenko was, and the injuries that he dealt with, and he was still arguably beating these guys. People say he probably could have got the Salido win as well, but the wins he put in, making people quit, and they're still world champions, unbeaten fighters. He was a phenom. He really was a phenom. He was outstanding, and yeah, a hell of a career. One of the best ever, and he should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. It's as simple as that. But yeah, that was my quick reaction to the breaking news from today that Vasyl Lomachenko, the outstanding three-division world champion, has officially retired from boxing with an amateur record of 396 and 1, 2 Olympic gold medals, a litany of other amateur medals, 18 and 3 as a pro, never been stopped, of course, three-division world champion, and yeah, retiring on top. There's arguably still top lightweights that he could have beaten, to be quite honest with you. I'd have trouble writing him off against any of the top lightweights now, so that shows how great he is. But yeah, that was just my quick reaction to the news. So yeah, let us know what you think in the comments. What was your reaction to the retirement of Vasyl Lomachenko, and how do you rate his career? Is he an all-time great? Is he a first ballot Hall of Famer in your opinion? Let us know what you think down below in the comments. Get involved as always, and please, as I say, if you're not doing so already, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel at ESBR Boxing, and follow us on all social media. Until next time, take care.